Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a crazy run that I had in the Open Great League with, of all things, Meteor Mash Lucario. Now, Lucario learns Meteor Mash for the very first time this season, and the moveset that I ran on Lucario was Bullet Punch, Power Up Punch, and Flash Cannon. Now, I'm well aware that due to Lucario's insanely glassy stat product, Lucario is a Pokemon more for fun than for climbing. However, against all odds, I went on a crazy 31-14 run during Go Battle Day and had 0 negative sets along the way. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go Lucario. Hopping to the first match, picking up a pretty okay lead, leading Lucario into Corsola. With Bullet Punch, I'm actually able to hit for some very nice neutral damage, and Meteor Mash will be devastating if the Corsola decides to no-shield. Meteor Mash comes out, Corsola is going to be putting up the shield, and immediately returning fire with the Nightshade. I know that I will be able to outpace them and make it to a second Meteor Mash. If Corsola really wants to, they can double shield and farm down, but they opt out, catching the Meteor Mash onto Azumarill. Azumarill will take some pretty significant damage, and in comes Ludicolo. If at all possible, I would love to try and Astonish it into Weather Ball range, as I would love to exit the matchup without being at -2 attack. So I'm going to be farming up a ton of energy with the Ludicolo and going for the Weather Ball. Now this arguably is a misplay because it actually misses the knockout and I'm forced to fire off another Weather Ball, so a bit of a miscalculation by me, but I haven't really seen Weather Ball damage on an Azumarill before. Azumarill actually puts up the shield, they fire off the play rough, that gets me very low. I send in Regidrago as they bring back the Glaring Corsola. Regidrago proved to be a very powerful closer on this team. As the games where Lucario didn't have a lot of play, Regidrago was absolutely able to pop off. Regidrago is going to be CMP tying here, Dragon Energy knocking out Galarian Corsola. They still have a very low health Azumarill, but they should be sending in their final Pokemon. It's revealed to be Furret, and this game could get a little bit interesting. I do have a little bit of HP remaining on my Lucario, so I can potentially try and go for the catch. I switch into Lucario, and I do get the catch. Furret through the Swift, but it does not land on its intended target. I will be bringing back in the Regidrago, and I need to make sure that they do not catch my Vice Grip. In comes Regidrago, I get the Vice Grip, no catch comes through, and that is going to secure the win. As Vice Grip KOs the Furret, all that's left is a very low health Azumarill. Azumarill gets Dragon Breath down, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up the Dream Lead Lucario into Credilli. Opponent is going to save switch into Fearow, and I'm more than happy to stay in with Lucario and fire off the Power Up Punch. Something that I learned about running Bullet Punch is people are not really aware of Lucario's count Bullet Punch, so a lot of the times you can get shields when just going for Power Up Punch because people think that's enough energy for a Thunder Punch. So in this matchup, for example, I'm able to get a very early shield and then just CMP tie them with the second Power Up Punch and take the knockout. So now I have a +2 Lucario, and they can't bring back in the Credilli, so they'll have to bring in their third. They bring in Jellicent, I bank a Power Up Punch for later, and I'm actually going to be pivoting out into the Regidrago. Regidrago, more than happy to absorb a Shadow Ball, and at this point the game is already lost for my opponent, because Regidrago is going to have very nice damage into the Jellicent, and I still have the Lucario to absolutely destroy that poor Credilli. So I'm more than happy to just let Regidrago go, it's done enough damage. I'm going to bring in the Ludicolo, throw one Astonish, and then switch when they switch. So I bring in the Ludicolo, it's a simultaneous switch, Lucario into Credilli. Now I'm very low on this Lucario, but watch this. Boosted Bullet Punch is absolutely annihilating Credilli. There's just nothing Credilli can do. It's never going to acid down. The Power Up Punch gets shielded. Look at the Bullet Punch damage. Lucario just farms all the way down. My opponent just gives up because they realize there is no stopping that Lucario. Very bad lead in the next match, Lucario into Talonflame. I save switch into Ludicolo, and my opponent is going to respond with Furret. Now this matchup is honestly not as bad for the Ludicolo as I was expecting. Despite the fact that Astonish is double resisted, Ludicolo applies massive chargeable pressure with Leaf Storm. Furrets typically like to shield the first, so I go for the Weather Ball bait, and the threat of a Leaf Storm is going to force Furret to throw all of its energy. That is honestly really nice, because I generated a shield advantage out of that mid game, and now I can go for farm with Lucario. Lucario is going to be a wall to the charge stacks from Furret. Furret goes for the Swift. That still does a lot of resisted damage because Lucario is very frail, but I get to farm up to the back-to-back power-up punches and take the knockout. Once the Talonflame gets brought back in, I'm going to throw one Bullet Punch and then defer the Incinerate damage onto the Regidrago. This means I'm only one off the Meteor Mash in case I need a Meteor Mash endgame. Talonflame will go for the fly. I'm going to be firing off the Dragon Energy right before they get to fly number 2. This Dragon Energy would be devastating damage, knocking out the Talonflame, so Talonflame is forced to put up a shield. I'm going to be matching shields, so all shields down, the endgame is here. They're going to be pivoting in the back, they have Gastrodon, and this is a little bit tough because Gastrodon can survive Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy is going to land, that's big damage, but I'm able to get to the Vice Grip. This new pacing on Regidrago paying off, Vice Grip lands, but it's not enough. Gastrodon with the 1 HP survive, that's going to get me very low. I send in Lucario, snipe down with a Bullet Punch, exiting with the Meteor Mash loaded, bring back in that Talonflame. Meteor Mash may be resisted, but it is an incredibly efficient attack. Down goes Talonflame, and that's a good game. Very bad lead in the next match, Lucario into Stunfisk. I save switch into Ludicolo, and my opponent is going to be staying in this matchup. They stay in for quite a while, and they pivot in their own Ludicolo. So whatever they have in back, it appears they do not have a good answer to the Pineapple. Ludicolo going for the Leaf Storm. Leaf Storm connects, opponent tries to call the bait, and now we see why they were kind of stun locked by the Ludicolo save switch. Annihilate in the back is a problem, because that means that unfortunately my Lucario doesn't have any targets in this game. I will get to fire off back-to-back debuffed Weather Balls, and I actually get a shield from the Annihilate. Look at Ludicolo go, almost taking 2 knockouts by itself. And for Lucario, unfortunately in this match, it's going to have to be a Damage Sponge. Rage Fist lands, they barely survive to make another Rage Fist, but I should be able to close out the game with the Regidrago. In comes Regidrago, sniping down with the Dragon Breath, and then all that's left is the Stunfisk. And unfortunately for Stunfisk, they can throw Mud Bomb after Mud Bomb, but Regidrago should be able to close out this game. And they do have a ton of loaded energy, but Regidrago's ability to very comfortably tank 2 Mud Bombs and not have to worry about getting farmed down means that I'm in a really good spot. No point in baiting, I full send the Dragon Energy and the opponent goes for their win con, which is calling the bait. Now I can shield and just commit to the Dragon Breath farm down. Stunfisk will fire off the Mud Bomb, they cannot get the back-to-back that they need, and we're able to claim our 5-0 set, which I believe takes us to 2282 Elo. Hopping into the next match, and the tough leads continue for Lucario, this time leading into Stunfisk. Save switch Ludicolo answered with a Toxapex, and this is a pretty big surprise. A, that I'm seeing a Toxapex at all, and B, that a Toxapex is behind a Stunfisk, because that means they are ABA weak to Mud Slap, and we know Mud Slap is still pretty common. I am going to decide to respect the Sludge Wave, and it turns out they're actually running Gunk Shot, so they are running some absolutely crazy movesets. I already successfully baited once, so I'm doubling down, and it works. I get the final shield, but unfortunately I don't have the health needed to make the Leaf Storm, so I'm forced to settle for a little bit of resisted Weather Ball chip. Back in comes Lucario. Lucario going to be hit with a Brine, but Brine honestly not going to do a ton of damage, and Lucario can farm up. My opponent says no, they pivot into the Stunfisk just to be answered with the Regidrago, and this is going to be a very tricky game to win. Mud Bomb from Stunfisk doesn't do a ton of damage, but the big issue that I'm going to have is they're able to get to a lot of Mud Bombs. That's going to chip away at my health bar, and they still have an entire third Pokemon in the back that I have not even seen yet. I have to hope that double Vice Grip can knock out because I'm going to need a little bit of residual energy for whatever's in the back. But unfortunately, double Vice Grip would not take the knockout. I could have thrown Dragon Energy, but I know that I need energy for whatever they have in the back. So I decide to take another Mud Bomb. I'm now very, very low, and I will be knocking them out with the Vice Grip. Back in comes Toxapex. I'm going to try and get as much residual energy as I possibly can and go for the knockout with the Vice Grip. Toxapex survives, simultaneous switch. Oh no, Lucario into Gourgeist. The Incinerates are shredding. Lucario makes the Meteor Mash, devastating damage. Shock and awe, down goes Gourgeist, down goes Toxapex. And against all odds, we fight back and Lucario takes the win. Tough lead in the next match, Lucario into Pangoro. Now this matchup is not a fun one for Lucario because I'm on Bullet Punch. I think Bullet Punch is better in a lot of matchups, but unfortunately in this matchup, obviously Force Palm would be preferred. Every Pangoro goes for the Night Slash, so I end up calling the bait and then sending in the Regidrago. Regidrago has to respect the potential close combat. Opponent is going to full send, and they're going to retreat out and send in Corviknight. Now this is a very tough spot to be in. Regidrago's energy is obviously walled. However, Dragon Energy, even post-nerf, is still a very efficient charge attack. I'm going to be shielding up because Corviknights love to go for payback into Regidrago. So now all shields are down. Regidrago will throw the Dragon Energy right before I'm able to reach the back-to-back. Dragon Energy is going to connect, getting my opponent low. There's the switch into the low health Lucario, hopefully catching the payback. It is the payback catch. That is a monster catch. I'm now going to wait down my timer and bring back in Drago. Drago's going to look for the farm down. Opponent opts out. They send in Clodsire as their final Pokemon. Clodsire is going to take a lot of damage. I have the back-to-back Dragon Energies. Dragon Energy number 1, immediately followed by Dragon Energy number 2. If my opponent has Sludge Bomb, I could be in a little bit of trouble, but most Clodsires that I've seen have been running Stone Edge. My opponent overfarms too much, and they let me get a Vice Grip, getting the Clodsire even lower. They're forced to throw energy. Here's the moment of truth. Do they have it? They don't. It's Stone Edge. In comes Ludicolo. Opponent sends in Pangoro. It's a race to the charge attack, but Pangoro does not make the close combat. Ludicolo outpaces, taking the knockout with the Weather Ball. Back in comes the Clodsire. Clodsire will get to go for the Stone Edge, but it's just too little too late. Ludicolo hangs on. Even if they had Night Slashed on the Panda, it wouldn't have knocked out. They needed that close combat, but they weren't able to get there. Great lead in the next match. Lucario into Shadow Celio. Opponent safe switches into Gourgeist, and I bank some energy before sending in the Regidrago. I did try and transfer that final Incinerate onto the Drago, but unfortunately I think it actually registered on the Lucario, so a bit of a misplay from me. I'm able to tank the Shadow Ball on Drago pretty well, and I return fire with the Dragon Energy, and they no-shield, and I'm able to take that knockout. Back in comes the Shadow Celio, and unfortunately that is a perfect farm down. But I have a Lucario and a loaded Power-Up Punch. Power-Up Punch gets shielded by the Celio, and now these Bullet Punches are going to start to shred. Celio's going to return fire with the Body Slam. Even Body Slam is something that I have to shield. I was expecting a catch, so that's why I didn't pop the CMP tie there, but my opponent actually just stays in and throws their energy. I'm going to farm up just shy of the back-to-back Power-Up Punches, and let's see, are they really willing to burn the final shield? They say no. Their final Pokemon is revealed to be Furret, and this is now a +2 Power-Up Punch. Power-Up Punch is going to be shielded by the Furret. I stay in to land a boosted Bullet Punch, and then I can bring in the Ludicolo. Getting that little bit of damage onto the Furret is actually going to be game-winning, because the Furret cannot knock out with 2 Swifts. They're forced to go for a Trailblaze into a Swift, but timing it the way I did, I outpaced by a turn, KO with the Leech Storm, and take the win. Hopping into the next match, oh my goodness, Lucario into Shadow Talonflame. 1 Bullet Punch and a safe switch to the Ludicolo, and my opponent is going to be responding once again with Furret. Seems like Talonflame plus Furret core is a very common core to start off this season. Again, I'm going to bait. I go for the Weather Ball, but a Stone Cold Bait Call from the Furret means this time I'm unable to get the shield that I was looking for. Trailblaze is going to be boosting up their attack, but it's not enough to take the knockout, so I will guarantee a shield or guarantee the knockout. They end up letting it go and sending in Sableye. It's the Shadow Sableye as well. In comes Lucario. Lucario, farm it up, and if they have Dazzling Gleam, I'm getting knocked out. Thankfully, they do not have it. It's just a foul play. I can fire off the Meteor Mash, and this will guarantee a shield or KO the Sableye. They put up the shield. In comes Regidrago. Sableye gonna farm up, bank a ton of energy, and back in comes the Shadow Talonflame. Shadow Talonflame, I have to shield the fly. It would just do way too much damage. The good news is, they're low enough, and the Dragon Breaths have added up enough that I can knock them out with the Vice Grip. This will save some energy on the Regidrago, because I'm gonna need it. That Sableye is absolutely loaded. However, the good news for me is that Sableye is starting to get very, very low, and I still have the Lucario. So after I fire off this Vice Grip to get the final shield, I can eventually just switch into Lucario. The Bullet Punches are going to do too much damage. It would have been a Simul KO. My opponent is forced to throw energy to deny the Simul KO, but I can just bring in Regidrago, get the farm down, and take the win. Green lead in the next match, Lucario into Florges. My opponent stays in, they check the fast move, they know they're in trouble, and out comes a Shadow Sableye. Shadow Sableye gonna be baited with a Power-Up Punch. The bait is successful, and now they have to deal with boosted Bullet Punches. You know what? Let's make those Bullet Punches +2. I fire off the Power-Up Punch. Sableye is gonna no shield, but Sableye is only gonna get 1 charge attack because that boosted Bullet Punch took the knockout. Sableye does not get to its energy. In the back is Furret, and they are triple weak to Lucario. Lucario's Power-Up Punch gets the shield. Oh my goodness, Lucario putting on a show. In comes Regidrago, answered with the Florges. There's the switch and the catch into the Ludicolo, and Ludicolo will be able to take home this win. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping to the final match, and we've got one final bad lead, Lucario into Gourgeist. A safe switch into Ludicolo, Gourgeist banks a Seed Bomb, sends out Licky Licky, and Licky Licky is another Pokemon that double resists Astonish. However, Licky Licky doesn't have great damage output, which means as Ludicolo, I should be able to survive that Body Slam no problem and land the Leaf Storm. Leaf Storm is devastating damage. It will fire off energy. If this is the Shadow Ball, I probably get knocked out. But if not, it's the Body Slam. Ludicolo hangs on. The 0814 IVs putting in work. We get the Leaf Storm. We take the knockout, and switch advantage has been flipped. Back in comes the Gourgeist, exiting with a Shadow Ball loaded. In comes Regidrago, and I'm shielding instantly, because if I no shield a Shadow Ball, then I'm going to have to shield Seed Bombs later. They Shadow Ball and dip. It's Umbreon in the back, and I can bank a ton of energy on Regidrago and completely wall this Umbreon with Lucario. Umbreon has Foul Play and Last Resort. There's not really anything it can do. And one of my favorite things about running Lucario is it can learn so many charge attacks that people will often shield, anticipating you to have moves that you don't have. Like there, for example, they have to respect an Aura Sphere, but I don't have it. So I just boost up with my Power-Up Punch, and suddenly I'm outputting some scary damage. Opponent tries for a catch on the Gourgeist, but I react in time, KO them with the Meteor Mash, and there's just no way out for the Umbreon. Umbreon will finally get rid of the Lucario, but there's still a very healthy Regidrago. In comes Regidrago, loaded with energy, firing off Dragon Energy. Down goes Umbreon, and that is a good game. All in all, I had an absolute blast running this team. As I mentioned at the start, Lucario, it's a pick for fun, it's not a pick for climbing, and that's purely based on the fact that this Pokemon has absolutely no stat product to speak of. It's very, very rare that you're going to run into a Pokemon that wins Charge Attack priority over mons like Scizor and Morpeko, but that's exactly what Lucario does. I do want to give a shout out to PV Potato, who is the one who actually recommended that I give Bullet Punch Lucario a try this season. And man, with Meteor Mash, it ended up being an extremely fun Pokemon to use. As I mentioned, it's a very, very glassy Pokemon, so it's going to be a very difficult Pokemon to use, as a lot of glass cannons are, but I think it's very skill intensive and very rewarding of good energy management. So it's a tricky Pokemon to play, but I do think that it can be a very powerful one as well. Like, I know these battles are pre-rank 20, but man, it really felt like Lucario was able to put in some serious work in a lot of games, even though I felt like a lot of the times I wasn't even necessarily seeing favorable team comps, but with very careful gameplay, and with Lucario outputting immense amounts of damage at absolutely every occasion, we were still able to find win cons. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.